This May 8th, there was a spectacular event in Washington, D.C. to commemorate the 70th anniversary of the VE Day, Victory in Europe Day. 56 warbirds flew down the mall, over the National World War II Memorial, further on down the mall, and then back out to the Potomac. It was moving at so many levels, it's hard to describe. And we're going to present an award this evening to the folks who helped make that possible. But first, we're going to tell about what happened and how it happened. Pete?
Well, it was May 2014. I'm up on Capitol Hill, and our favorite aviator, Congressman Sam Graves, sits down with me at breakfast and says, you know, we've got this Texas Flying Legends TBM Avenger. I want to fly it up, right up Constitution Avenue. And he said, you know how to make that happen. Go do it. And I looked at him. I said, oh, yeah, I can call the Secret Service right now. It'd be a piece of cake, Congressman. About 48 hours later, I figured out that the May 8th of 2015 was the 70th anniversary, and I knew we had our hook. So what do you do when you're presented with a challenge? You consult with your family. And you all are the air show family. So within this room, so many people went to work. The very first call was to John Cuddy, and we started plotting. Second call was to Steve Brown. We get Warren involved in this with Texas Flying Legends. I pick up the phone, call Tebow, and I said, Tebow, you do these flyovers at Arlington Cemetery all the time. Tell me about the airspace. And then next call was to Wayne Boggs. Very quickly, I call Lee Lauterbach, say this is a zero mistake. We got to make it pilot-proof. How do we do this safely? And calls just go on and on. Rob Ryder, how do we do a narration at the World War II Memorial to make it work? And it just starts to snowball from there. We have a year to put it together. And in this process of doing something that people said you will never, ever get the approvals to make happen, it just was so absolutely heartwarming to know that every one of the people up on or in Washington, D.C. and the federal government that we touched with this didn't say no. They said, how can we help make this happen? Now, of course, there was a little encouragement along the way. We went and we had a letter signed by virtually every chairman in the House of Representatives that was handed to the FAA administrator. Said, this is going to happen, let's figure out how. But when the FAA went to work and started the coordination team, and you're going to hear about one of our heroes here in a few minutes, who started to work the interagency process, it just started, people came out of the woodwork to say, let's make this happen. And what was so cool is nobody did this to make a buck. Nobody did this for any other reason than to honor that greatest generation. But I'm here to tell you, as all of us know that have been involved in the air show industry, is that the logistical challenges of being able to get together that many warbirds and to work out everything with the airfields that we were flying over and all the requirements in the Washington, D.C. area, you had to go with the pros. And so I'd like to ask Steve to talk a little bit about what CAF did in that process.
Thanks, Pete. Obviously, when Pete came to us and we got with Texas Flying Legends, and a lot of the warbird operators, if not all of them in the room, had some hand in this. Unfortunately, we couldn't pull all the funds together. We wanted to have everybody involved, but we were able to pull off 56 airplanes, which was amazing. Of course, the goal and why we were doing this was to be able to honor those vets of World War II. And down on the ground at the World War II Memorial, we had over 300 World War II vets. And it was an amazing thing that happened on there because we wanted to honor those who sacrificed at home, who built the arsenal of democracy, which is, of course, what we were recreating there. And it was an amazing thing from above, as I was part of in the group of the flyover, to see Washington, D.C. come to a dead stop. All of the bridges stopped. There were cars along it, people getting out of their cars, looking out. All of the buildings, all the balconies, the Kennedy Center had people on top of it. The entire town came to a stop, and they got a chance to see what we do in aviation. And we were to take our part of it, of general aviation, the warbird, and really show them what we can do. And everyone was amazed that we'd pull off this event as we did. And I think finally what it showed was the kind of industry collaboration we have, and that all the groups came together. We had two guys, and we're going to honor a lot of people, but in our group, just to get 56 airplanes coordinated and the flyover with 13 flights on time every minute and a half, Bob Stenovic and Mike Ginter, two guys that just really worked hard to make it happen. And all the collaboration that we had, and of course, the best friend that general aviation has in this government, which is Congressman Sam Graves. And I'm sorry he's not here, but he's really a motivating factor. So with that, we want to share a little film made that gives you a touch if you didn't get a chance to see it.
Had this dream of flying airplanes. Pearl Harbor happened on December 7th. 2 days later, I was gone. I have to do this. It's in my heart to do it. What I liked about World War II was how we pulled the country together.
Talent doesn't come in color or happenstance of birth. It comes in being prepared, and that's the opportunities that we have had here in America.
You were liberated on your way into LaGuardia, and you wrote that the pilot came across the harbor.
He banked around the Statue of Liberty. I can't express what that did, what that meant. I was home.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank all the warbird operators in this room that contributed beyond Texas Flying Legends and the Commemorative Air Force. There were a lot of people that made this happen. And second of all, I want to know how many of you are going to be there when we put 100 warbirds in the air in 2020. We're going to do it bigger, twice as big, twice as many airplanes. We're going to make it happen.
So as Pete alluded to, this would not have been possible. In fact, many people said it was impossible until we started contacting our friends in the regulatory agencies, airports, nonprofit organizations, and some veteran warbird operators in the DC area. I'd like to call onto the stage Mike Ginter, Mike Gyron from the Federal Aviation Administration, Holly Rotundi from the Friends of the National World War II Memorial, and Tanya Woodward from the Culpeper Regional Airport. In recognition of all that these folks did, the ICAS Board of Directors has awarded these groups and several others that were involved with the Arsenal of Democracy its Special Achievement Award. Going through the group, Mike Ginter, if there was anybody who single-handedly made this happen, it was probably Mike. Mike had, in the fall of 2014, had arranged a multi-ship T6 formation down the Potomac in airspace that was sensitive, not quite as sensitive as right down the National Mall, but very sensitive nonetheless. And he had figured out the wickets to jump through, who to talk to in the FAA, the TSA, the Secret Service, what their expectations, restrictions, and regulatory expectations would be. He worked this issue, I would say it was the better part of a full year, and solved every one of the problems. And he did that in large part because he had cooperation from so many regulatory agencies. But Mike Ginter, thank you very much for what you've done for us. As you can imagine, TSA and the United States Secret Service had something to say about this too. These planes flew within a half mile of the White House in weapons of war, warbirds with very heavy airplanes, lots of fuel, people that the Secret Service did not necessarily know. The Secret Service, again, just how do we get to yes? What do we need to do to help you do this? And they were instrumental. Forrest Pruitt in particular was very helpful. He worked this issue from beginning to end, largely in conjunction with Mike. He wasn't able to make it tonight, but the Secret Service was instrumental in this. TSA was also very helpful, very forward-thinking, very positive about how are we going to make this happen. We also had the help of two different regional airports in DC, the Manassas Airport in Manassas, Virginia, and the Culpeper Regional Airport in Culpeper, Virginia. The big bombers were based in Manassas. The fighters and the trainers were largely based at Culpeper. Tanya Woodward from the Culpeper Regional Airport is with us. That group pulled together an enormous amount of volunteers. They hosted these people in their town, busting at the seams in the hotels, managed all the people that came down to see these airplanes, and we're very, very thankful for the participation and the help of both Culpeper and Manassas. Thank you very much, Tanya. We decided early on that we didn't want to wrestle with all the issues related to crowd management at the National World War II Monument. So early on, we formed a partnership with Friends of the National World War II Memorial. Holly Rotundi is the executive director of that organization. She has done this as recently as day before yesterday for the Pearl Harbor. They are adept at hosting large groups. They know the expectations and the needs of the veterans, and it was only with their help that we were able to host something like 25,000 people in the immediate vicinity of the National World War II Memorial, keep those veterans comfortable, and recognize them in the way that they should be recognized. So thank you very much, Holly. For better or for worse, some of us, the only involvement we have with the FAA is a series of no's. But they said yes repeatedly. It helped, as Pete pointed out, that the administrator was in favor and supportive of this right from the start. But everybody in the organization, from air traffic control to security to flight standards, and especially the folks at AFS 800, found a way to let something happen that would not normally happen. And so, Mark Gyron, please accept our thanks and a small token of our appreciation to the FAA.